Welcome back to Tiny Grimes Games, and I'm here with a learning how to play Legends of Runeterra video. This is really for the people who have been following my content for the last several years. They've seen me playing this new game, Legends of Runeterra. They've seen me streaming it, and they've been thinking, Tiny, what the heck is this? I don't even know what's going on. Could you please explain it to me? So if you haven't been following my channel, you just stumbled across this video, you might be a little confused because I'm going to make comparisons to Star Wars Destiny. I'm going to make comparisons to Hearthstone. These Star Wars Destiny especially is not a game you see many comparisons to. When you hear that though, you can just insert chess. So, Legend of Runeterra. Here's what we're dealing with. It's basically a game that is a combination of Star Wars Destiny, or chess, and Hearthstone. And what I mean by that is, much like Hearthstone, if you look on the right over here, under where it says OK, you can see each person has one dot. That is your resources, or your mana pool for the turn. And each turn you're going to get one more dot. So turn 2 you'll have 2, turn 3 you'll have 3, etc., etc. Very much in the Hearthstone model. Again, very similar to Hearthstone, you will have a handful of cards. When you're starting the game, you're going to be given the selection of 4 cards. You sort of pick out what you want to keep based on what you think is going to help you in a particular matchup. Much like most card games, cards have cost. They have their strength, they have their defense or hit points. In this game, when a card takes damage, it retains that damage, much like Hearthstone. So this card, the used Cast Salesman, costs 3. He is a 3/2. These are sort of standard card game things. Another standard card game things, you have 20 health. In this game, they call it the Nexus. Whatever, you can insert face, champion maybe not. But you can insert life total there. So these are sort of the basic elements of the game. What I think is especially interesting about this game is the back and forth nature. A lot of online card games have sort of resorted to this model of like, I do all my stuff, I tab out, I come back when it's my turn. That's not a really engaging way to play. I came from the chess world, I played Star Wars Destiny. These games really kept me invested by having a situation where I took an action, my opponent took an action. I didn't have to sit here for 5 minutes while they spewed out a whole pile of cards and then just see if they beat me or not. In addition to that, there are also not just these units that we're seeing here, but there's spells, and there's this cool stack where when your opponent casts a spell, again, it's my turn, your turn. It's not just simply they cast a spell, I watch it resolve. I have tons of choices. I could put a counter spell on top of that. I could put a spell on top of it that will actually resolve before that spell, which can have these really intense moments of like, I'm going to kill my guy to do this damage to your guy, and you're like, really? I'm actually going to kill your guy before your spell goes off, so when it goes to go off, your guy will already be dead, and now you can't do anything. One other really interesting element of this is that while we both get to play units and spells on any particular round until we run out of resources or until we pass, there's also this little sword here. And this is basically who is the attacker. And what makes this interesting is, yes, we both get to play stuff, but only one of us gets to attack. But what we can't do is this, like, you have an empty board, I have an empty board, blah! Here's 8 guys, you didn't get to respond, I kill you. Instead, it's like, I play a guy, you play a guy. Should I attack yet? No, I'm going to play another guy. Maybe they won't play a guy. I play a guy. I play a bigger guy. And you're like, son of a, that didn't work out at all. And so there are all these interesting moments of like, when do you attack on the turn? Do you attack right away before they put a board out? Do you feel like your guys are bigger and therefore you're going to get a bigger board faster than they are? There's a lot of pull and give and take there. Another really interesting thing about this game is that you got these regular cards. There's cards, 2 cost, 3 cost, they're units, they'll go on the board. We'll see this in a minute. We also have these guys called champions, and this is what your deck is sort of built around. So like when I see my opponent's deck, I don't know any of the cards in their deck, but I do know they're champions. Their deck is built around Callista, which is a unit that when it sees people die, it will level up them and have this really good ability. What I was confused at first with the level up stuff is they're not that much stronger. Like, she becomes from a 4/3 to a 5/4. And I remember thinking when I first saw this, like, Woo, who cares? Like, why would I want to level up then? That's so minor. But oftentimes it's the ability that becomes really, really good. So like Callista especially is a great example of this, where she's just kind of a vanilla 4-3. But once she sees 3 people die, or 3 allies die, now she's unkillable on offense, right? So you attack with Callista, she makes a copy of something that had died before, and it takes the damage for her, which is totally absurd. It makes it so that you can just attack without having to worry, and then your opponent blocks Callista knowing they can't even kill it. It's a huge thing, but you have to get 3 allies to die. Now you might be thinking like, well, that's pretty hard to do. It's not. It really is not. She's very good. Thresh is another example of this. He's a 3-6. That's cool. He has this thing called Challenger, and what that means is whenever he attacks, he gets to pull somebody to him to make that the blocker. Okay, that seems pretty good. He has to see 6 units die, but at least it's both sides. And when he does, he only becomes a 4-7, which isn't that much better, but now he gets to pull out that other champion from your deck the first time he attacks, which can be incredibly powerful. Let's say you have like a 9-cost champion. Your deck could be built around leveling up Thresh to pull that champion out of your deck onto the field for free. So, let's see how a game works. Let's see how a turn works. So, I'm looking at this hand. I'm thinking, I've got a 1-drop. I've got 2 2-drops. I've got a 3-drop. I actually picked a burn aggro deck just so we could kind of see it, make sure we had a good curve. Sure, let's keep it. What we're not going to see actually with this particular deck right away is these extra 3 crystals here. And you might be thinking like, what's going on with these? And what's going on with those is anytime you don't use all your mana in a turn, up to 3 until these are maxed out, it will flip down there. So like if I were to just pass here and not play this 1-drop, next turn I would have my 2 normal mana, as we'll see, and then I would have this extra spell mana. Now it can only be used to cast these things, the spells. They look different. They don't have hit points and attack values, but this is just a do 2 to anything. And this can be really powerful, especially in more control-oriented decks. You may want to say like, you know what, not only did I not miss my 1-drop and 2-drop, I'm not playing them on purpose. I want to go into round 3 with 3 regular mana and 3 bonus spell mana. I could play a 6-cost spell at that point. Now remember, you can't do it to play units, because then you could play totally broken units on turn 3, but you could use it to play a really busted spell. And in fact, there's a 6-cost spell in one of the factions that allows you to get like a 5/5 dude on turn 3, which can be incredibly powerful. But what we're going to do, we're going to play a 1-drop. He's a champion. He's a really interesting champion because when he levels, he goes from a 1/1 to a 2/2. And again, you might be like, yay. But he has this thing he does where he puts these poison mushrooms in your opponent's deck. And when they go to draw a card, if it has a poison mushroom on it, it does 1 single damage. This doesn't seem like a lot, and it's really not that much. But in an aggro deck, 1 or 2 damage can be important. Now, this guy does have a mechanic. There's quite a few interesting mechanics here. He has elusive. We'll say that's like flying if you've played Magic, or Hearthstone must have something like this. I don't know what that mechanic would be. I don't remember off the top of my head. But it means he can only be blocked by other elusives. Now, our opponent here, they didn't have a 1-drop, so they're passing. Normally, that's fine. Against an aggro deck, that can be a bit tricky. So they don't have a 1-drop. His ability goes off, which was to plant 5 mushrooms in the deck. And then watch what's going to happen to their mana. Boom, it goes into the spell mana. So this turn, our opponent can play either a 2-cost card, a 3-cost spell, or a 2-cost card and a 1-cost spell, or they can just bank this for the rest of the game. They can use it whenever they want. Interestingly, whenever you cast a spell, it's always going to pull from the extra source first, because it's just refilling anyway. Alright, so we've got a real choice here. We have 3 2-drops, or even a spell for 2. This guy is a really amazing attacker, and he just does 2 damage to them regardless, just from an ability. So I'm going to play him just to show you what the ability is. And so now our opponent is going to, they're going to do a trick here. So they've got this special guy. That 2/2, when he died, he became a 4/3. It was just a last breath effect. What's the Hearthstone name for it again? I forget. Death Rattle, I think. And now they have the Butcher as well. So now they went from having just a 1/1 with no mana to this. This is sort of the nut draw for this deck. So we just got nut drawn by the AI, and we have a real decision to make. Do we take 7 damage from them? Do we make some blocks? They would die. This one would be at 2, which next turn we could hit with this spell that does 2 to anything. We could just be happy with this at 1. The thing is, we're an aggro deck that wants to be more attacking. So I don't think we're going to do that. I think we're going to take the damage, and we may lose this game. Like, the nut draw might have just beaten us, but we'll find out. So here we are on turn 3. Again, much like Hearthstone, we could simply play a 3-drop, or play a 2-drop, or play the spell. Another move we have is play a 2-drop and bank a mana, so that next turn we would have 4 mana plus a bonus mana for that spell. That's a tough one. I think what we're going to do is play this guy, because since he is a 3 attack, he matches up really well with their guys. We can't attack because that 1/1 would kill the 3/1, which we don't want. We're okay with him dying because he's going to do 2 damage when he attacks. If you'll notice this, a skill or a spell kind of thing comes out of him. And this is actually on a stack. If our opponent had a spell, they could have layered that on top of that, which can be really interesting. They could have canceled that spell. They could have, healed their Nexus there if they were about to die or something. Ooh, I don't even know this card. When I'm summoned, create a copy of an ally that died this game in my hand. So I believe the only ally that's died is that one that made a 4/3 that came out of it. So that's kind of terrifying. We are going to do is this. This guy has a summon ability of his own. He brings out 2 just 0/1s. They're not very good, but when they die, they deal a damage to each player. Now that might sound terrible, except for the fact that we actually don't mind taking damage since we're the aggro deck. We just want to kill our opponent anyway. And I think we're also just going to make trades here. And now we are actually whittling our opponent down. He has a last breath or a death rattle that does 2. These guys are each going to do 1 to both of us. And suddenly, that game that looked a little bit out of reach maybe isn't so out of reach. We could do 2 damage as a spell. Notice we have our 1 regular mana and our 1 extra mana. And we could hit this 3/1 with that. But we're not going to do that. We're an aggro deck. We may just end up wanting to do that directly to them. What we are going to see here are some interesting combinations. So if we look at their deck, it says they have 31 cards left. Okay, cool. They're 40-card decks. That's fine. Whatever. But they have 10 puff caps in their deck. And if you'll notice his ability, it says you've planted 15 puff caps, and he levels up. So when he attacks, he will actually level up. So that's pretty great. But what we're going to do here is play a little combo. We're going to play this gal, Crimson Disciple. She has the ability, when she survives damage, deal 2 to the Nexus, which is their face. And then we're going to play this card that does 2 damage to her, or 1 damage to her, and then does 2 damage to their face. So look, they're layering on top of our spell and saying, we want to do some things here. None of these are particularly interacting with our spell. Like, they could have just killed her, and then this ability wouldn't go off at all. But still, they're layering something on top. And now if you look, I could choose to layer this on top as well. And so then I would do 2 damage first. For instance, I could kill this guy, making it so that this ability says kill an ally to draw 2. If I were to kill him first, then this spell would actually fizzle, because there'd be no ally to kill. And against a lot of decks, I would actually do that. But since I'm an aggro deck, and I'm just trying to get them dead, essentially, I think I would rather that they took the draw. Ooh, look at that. They took one of my mushrooms. And then I'm able to kind of press through here. Because now I'm going to do 1 there. I'm going to do 2 with this. And hopefully, we'll actually get there. Alright, so now they don't have an elusive, remember, so that's why they can't block. We're putting 5 more mushrooms in. He's now leveled up. And he's a 2/2. And his new ability says double the amount of puff caps in their deck. So normally people don't let this little 1/1 live all that long. We are playing against the AI. Perhaps the AI is not quite as annoyed by Teemo as a regular player would be. But alas, they let that go. So now we have lethal, actually. So we have this card. It is a spell that costs 5, and this card is a spell that costs 2. So we only have 6 mana, but remember we have our 3 bonus mana that we've been banking. Again, this is a really cool mechanic because either if you whiff, you don't truly whiff because it gets banked for later, or you can purposely choose to save it for later. So there's really not much our opponent can do here. They can interact with the spell. It's going to do 4 to their face. Actually that's not true. This faction does have a fair amount of healing. So this could be a moment where it looks like we're going to win. So I'm layering on lethal here. This is the game. Unless our opponent can layer on a heal effect. And, it's quite likely. Nope. Okay. So they're gonna first try to get that, but the way the stack works is now it's going to just resolve. And look at this. They died to the buff caps. That's pretty funny. So they actually died drawing the cards they were hoping would save them because I loaded their decks with traps. Teemo doing his thing. Okay, so that's how a game works. The way deck construction works in this is also pretty interesting. There's no neutral cards. So there's no card where you're just like, well, that goes in every single deck. That's just a given. Instead, how it works is you have 2 factions in the Runeterra universe. Don't ask me anything about it. I don't know anything. I only know it's in this game. So this particular deck is the Noxious faction and the Piltover and Zaun factions. And much like Magic, they're very clear on their color pies. So like Noxious is damagey dudes. Freljord has like buffing mechanics and a little bit of ramp. Demacia is like play a bunch of good cheaper dudes and just try to dude out all the way along. Shadow Isles is this really interesting mishmash of like self-killing like we saw the last game. That was Shadow Isles. And then a bunch of healing and control stuff. Ionia, I think of as almost straight control. But then they also have this whole, like, elusives package that we saw, like the magic flying mechanic. And there's tons of that going on. What I've been really impressed with the game is how much diversity there is. Because there are no neutral cards, we just see a lot of cards seeing play. They have this belief that, like, all cards should be good. That we're not selling packs, so we don't need pack fillers. Going to that, probably the most interesting part to me of this game, or maybe not interesting, but the part that drew me in, I'll say, is just how accessible it is. If you look at this, these are, I'm going to go into the collection here. These are the most expensive, rarest cards are the champions. And if you look at this, I have 3 of like almost all of them. At least certainly all the ones I want. I can make tons more right now. I could probably complete my champion collection if I so desired. In other words, this game is incredibly accessible because they have this really deep reward system. First of all, you get a quest every day that gives you your experience, and then you get to spend your experience on these rewards. So it's going to be hard for me to show you because I've gotten a lot of them already. We'll go to Freljord. But each time you get experience, it gets you to the next reward, and these rewards give you cards. So this gives me a capsule of cards and shards. This gives me an epic. This gives me one of the champions. And what's great about this is that I personally don't think you need to spend any money on this game. Now, there's a caveat to that. If you want to be ultra competitive in a 3-day span, yeah, you're going to have to spend money on it. But I don't think that should be your goal. I think most people who get into a new game are just thinking like, this is a cool game. I want to give it a try. And they play for like 5 days and go, I think I want to go deeper into this. And even by the time you get to that, by 5 days, you're going to start putting together a collection. It's going to be pretty limited. You'll probably be able to craft like one of the cheaper decks. Each week you get this vault, which gives you a free champion wildcard, which is essentially something you can turn into anything you want. If you look at the wildcards I have, these are how many wildcards I have right now. That I can make 63 commons, 21 uncommons, 12 epics, and only 1 champion. But as you saw, I've been very creative and trying tons and tons of decks and trying tons of champions. So here's what I like best about Legends of Runeterra. I love the back and forth part of the game It reminds me very much of Star Wars Destiny. I've been playing Magic for the last year, and I can cast spells on my opponent's turn, and that's cool, and that keeps me engaged. But there's nothing that engages me more than I take an action, you take an action. The thing that drove me crazy about Star Wars Destiny was when they broke that, and they were like, I take an action, you take 12 actions. And that's when I was like, I don't know if I love this game anymore. Because what I loved was the chess-like feel of it, that you could never just, like, run away with it. And you always had a chance to respond, and it gives you all these opportunities to plan. Should I attack at the beginning of this turn? I have a 2/2 guy on the board. My opponent has nothing. But it's turn 4. If I don't attack, since it's my turn, then maybe they're just going to play a 4-drop, and now I won't even get to attack, because it would just eat my 2-drop. So I need to attack here. Or, no, I know my opponent's deck really, really well, and on turn 4, they need to bank that mana, because they have a super powerful turn 5. So I can play this 4-drop, knowing I'm going to be safe. There's just all of these next level plays going on, and if you look through this, there's like all the factions are represented here. It's really crazy how many good decks there are. So that's my favorite part of the game. And then the part that makes me think, why haven't you tried it, you viewer, is how free it is. That's what got me to try it. I'm going to be perfectly honest. I spent $100 on Artifact. I got scorched on Artifact. My initial impression was I didn't love the game, but then it grew on me. But I knew it was super complicated and most people weren't going to love the game. But I spent the money anyway because I was like, it's Valve. What could go wrong? We all know what went wrong. It went belly up. They're trying it again. Good luck. Hope it goes well. But this game, I was like, I don't. I'm playing Magic. I'm having fun. I don't need another game right now. I'm good. Thank you. So I missed the whole closed beta. Then Magic decided to release the companion mechanic. If you know anything about Magic, you know that was a debacle. So I was like, I'm taking a break from Magic while we sort this out. And I'll try this game. And you know I'm going to try this game? It's free. If it hadn't been free, I don't think I would have tried it. It is so free that it makes it worth, I think, at least giving it a try. Especially if you like Star Wars Destiny, I think there's a real chance that you're going to at least like this game, if not love this game. So, hopefully you found this how to play Legends of Runeterra video enlightening. Maybe you're going to give it a try. If so, let me know in the comment section below. I'm really curious to hear who thought after watching this video, yeah, that does look fun. Thanks, I'll give it a try. So let me know if you're playing. Hopefully I'll see you on the ladder, and I'll see you next time on Tiny Grimes Games.